Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that can feel, pretty overwhelming, corruption in America, but we're going to come at it with a structural lens to really try and make sense of it. Our guide for this whole explainer is Sarah Chayes' fantastic work on corruption in America. We're basically going to unpack the core ideas to get a totally fresh perspective on a very, very old problem. Wow, this quote, it just gets right to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? It's not really just about money. It's about what happens to a society when it stops asking those tough questions about where wealth comes from. It really points to a deep erosion of shared values. Okay, so our first big step here is to reframe the problem. We really need to look past the daily headlines, the scandal of the day, and ask if we're even seeing the issue correctly in the first place. I mean, the symptoms are all too familiar, right? A constant stream of scandals, waves of public outrage, and that nagging feeling that the whole system is just rigged. It's a frustration so many of us feel. But Chayes asks us to consider a pretty radical shift here. What if these scandals aren't bugs in the system? What if they're not failures at all, but are actually features of a system that's working exactly as it's designed to? So, if these scandals are just features of some larger system, what is that system? To get a handle on it, we need a good metaphor, one that helps us see something that's built to be hidden from view. And that's the central challenge, isn't it? How in the world do you see a system that is intentionally designed to be invisible? Well, this is where the metaphor of hidden plumbing is just so incredibly useful. Think about it. We all see the visible rooms of government, elections, new laws, different agencies, but behind the walls, there's all this plumbing that decides where the resources actually flow. And when that plumbing gets rerouted, public money and power are quietly siphoned off to private networks. As Chayes herself puts it, corruption isn't some glitch in the system. No, it is the operating system for these networks. It's the core programming, and its main purpose is extraction. Every operating system runs on a certain kind of logic, and for this one, it's fueled by these incredibly powerful incentives that create really high rewards and, crucially, very low risk for anyone on the inside. The logic of extraction is actually pretty simple. Maximize your rewards and minimize your risk. This is done through a few key mechanisms. You've got the classic revolving door, right? Where regulators go and work for the very same industries they used to regulate. You've got campaign finance laws that are so complex they create all these legal loopholes. And maybe most importantly, you have the systematic weakening of the very agencies that are supposed to be enforcing the rules. And this gets to such a key insight about that revolving door. It's not just people moving between two separate worlds, public and private. As the book points out, they're all members of a single integrated network, and they're all working towards the same goal, making that network richer and more powerful. So when you have a system with these kinds of incentives baked in, you get really predictable outcomes. Let's take a look at what those outcomes are for the rest of society. So on the left, you can see the public-serving intent of our institutions. But over on the right, you see the extractive outcomes that happen when that hidden plumbing is rerouted. Public resources that are meant to be protected, well, they're leased for next to nothing. Health and safety enforcement just plummets. And the law gets applied asymmetrically, where corporate crime somehow faces way fewer consequences than street crime. Okay, look at this number, -90%. What in the world could that possibly represent? Yep, this is the real-world consequence of systematically weakened enforcement. A 90% drop in fines against huge meat conglomerates for violations. I mean, when the enforcers are defunded or just pointed in another direction, this is the kind of predictable result you get. And a system this effective is also incredibly persistent because, well, it protects itself. The very same people who benefit from this whole arrangement are the ones writing the rules, controlling the oversight committees, and shaping the public story to be about a few bad apples instead of the entire system. Okay, so the absolutely crucial point here is understanding how this whole operating system connects to the much broader challenges that we face every single day. And this brings us right to the core idea. The real crisis in perception is that we've all been trained to see corruption as individual scandals, and by doing that, we completely miss the underlying architecture of extraction that connects all of them. This system doesn't exist in a vacuum, not at all. It's deeply interwoven with some of the biggest problems that we face, right? It fuels soaring inequality, it distorts our elections, it thrives on media distraction, and it plugs directly into these global financial networks that help hide all the money. So this analysis really leaves us with a critical question. Now that we can actually see the hidden plumbing, how does that change the way we even begin to look for solutions? Crisis in Perception examines how systems shape belief and how better tools help us see clearly. This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis in Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon. For a longer audio-based analysis of this topic, see the deep dive linked in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.